guys. We are in a best of 3 series from the June monthly finals that happened not just 2 days ago, July 2nd, in which Cure, I believe, ended up taking the crown. Yes, indeed. I was like, how did I forget this? I literally cast it. But we didn't get to cast one of the quarterfinals. So, like the good person that I am, didn't have access to these replays because I cast them. No. I had access to the replays because I got them from being a Patreon on patreon.com/olymoly, which you all should be a Patreon on as well because it'll support the Olima League and give more money to awesome players and continue producing an awesome tournament, of which I will be casting next week and the week after. So you guys should be hella excited for that. But yeah, we did not get to cast this. No one cast it. It's unknown what happened in this series. And I'm really curious because, spoiler alert, it apparently took a long time. And if it didn't, then they took a long time to report. But either way, I'm excited to see what the TvT really had in store. No one 2 racks in game of the time for that little spiel. Now let's do the introduction. In the top left is the yellow Terran. It is Dream. In the bottom right, as the blue Terran, it is Keen. Thanks to the July goals spreadsheet. It inspired me to do something similar. Awesome to hear, Way of the Gun. I was hoping it would inspire, you know, someone in some little way. I think it does actually help, you know, just like putting your goals on paper is already helpful. If you don't believe it, try it. Then to also give a little, not publicity to it, but put eyes on it, you know, have some people have some feeling of having to prove yourself to other people. Even if it's just like one person that you're like, hey, I'm gonna have goals, and they're like, cool, I don't care. It still feels like a little bit of extra something, you know? Just to let you keep track of them, keep on them for a little while longer. So I'm a fan. I've already been doing pretty well in my goals. Hopefully you guys already have been doing pretty well for your July. Whatever you're thinking of doing. Little Reaper scuffle in the middle of the map doesn't really mean a ton, but as you can see, the command center has been halted. It was a run max expand versus a factory expand. Keen, realizing this, is being very careful. Should he lose the Reaper in a desperate attempt to hold on to his command center, the next Reaper and the Hellion would have popped out. He would have been down a Reaper with only 2 Marines and a Hellion of his own, and he would have lost that war, and the command center would still be delayed. So in this case, it was delayed, but not as bad as it could have been. And in fact, he even wins the war there with the Reaper still alive for scouting in the future, and he's going to try and keep that alive as well. 2 Hellions, very awkward damage dealers because of the way that they shoot, right? So 1 Marine actually poses a great threat to them alongside these 2 other units, and Keen is just so keen on keeping this Reaper alive. But with the second Reaper, maybe that won't last for very much longer. No, it's actually gonna work. This Reaper is such a boss. The combat drugs came in at the perfect time, plus another Hellion was on the way to chase these down, gets that Reaper, could get this other Hellion. This Hellion's gonna go back home and hold the line. But Dream, he thought he saw an opportunity to continue the aggression. He was wrong, actually. He's gonna try and hold on without losing any more units by the repair. He will lose some mining time, sure, yeah, but you know what? When all said and done, it might be impressive that Keen held. Keen did not have that much faster of a command center because it was delayed, right? In fact, he straight up did not have a faster command center as it finishes into an orbital as I speak. But while he made up for that little problem, Dream did. He did not make up for the army problem. Keen has a bigger army, and it is easily transported, quickly transported over to the other side of the map with this medevac, also providing that healing for the Marines. Raven pops out to help out. Cyclone pops out to help a lot more. Auto turret kind of deterred some units from entering into the natural, but these units had already entered in. Got a couple SCVs, I believe, and the Reaper's gonna look for the scout. And maybe get an SCV? Not so much, not so much. But he did get the scout. Not that it was really scouting for very much. I think maybe it could have scouted for a 3rd CC. We do see enough minerals to go for it. but they are both microing so much that their macro is faltering. Just a tad, just a little bit. Cyclone lock on to each other, but that one lock on, well, actually the lock on is broken. Oh, lock on is broken. This Dream Cyclone lives. That's so important. That is so important. It's being repaired as well. Raven also living with another auto turret to help out, or an interference matrix. I believe the interference matrix would be helpful as well, but gonna go for the auto turret once again. This one also gonna be able to provide some help just soon enough, or not. Cyclone lock on is not good. Holy shit, that actually survived. Oh my god, stop throwing units at each other, guys. I can't keep up with this. My throat's already feeling a little bit sore. Stop it. Oh, the Liberator's on the top side. Dream pays attention at the very last seconds, loses 2 SCVs. The Marines pop out in the nick of time. Cyclone comes back to help out, but is no longer on support in the front, but that doesn't matter, as the front attack had already been knocked down like 50% in its potency. So the tank combination with the Ravens was good enough, and that Liberator didn't exactly do what it was meant to do. It was pretty much hoping to be alongside a little bit more pressure, but, you know, things had already kind of been lined up. They'd already kind of been dealt with, and it didn't look so impressive. But behind this, Keen, most importantly, is already onto a 3rd CC, has 2 tanks to defend, still has the medevac as well to threaten a potential drop. Wouldn't be a very potent drop without stim, but it would be a drop. Dream has that armor supply lead though now. He has 3 Ravens as well to the single Raven of Keen, and that's when the tanks suddenly look like they just don't even exist anymore. He literally has 3 interference matrix plus something extra, whatever he wants to use to try and stop Keen from holding this position, but Keen, trying to be very clever with his tank positioning, had 2 on the high ground just in case Dream was going to be forward and try and interference matrix the ones that he would expect here. Because what is Keen not defending if he's all the way over there? Well, he's not defending this command center, but because the rocks are still here and it would take forever for so few units to break down the rocks, that was almost clever. That was almost clever, but Dream, I think, did catch sight of that little move. He knows how many tanks there are, he's seen the number, and will not be bamboozled. Just holding the high ground, which is more power to him. Now we're gonna come down to who can get the Vikings out. The 3 Ravens, however, even if Keen has the Viking count in a direct fight, he should never win, because his Vikings can easily be taken out of the equation with interference matrix. Speaking of which, they're going down 1 on Dream's Raven, but only after it expelled its own. And the tank line could be broken. SCVs are being pulled. Cyclone gets the last shot on that 2nd tank, but these tanks did live through the fight. 3rd tank pops forward as well. Marine count of Keen also just maybe too impressive alongside that SCV pool, which only puts him down 4 SCVs, so totally worth it to hold the line. The Marines are getting awfully thin now. Sim isn't done. Combat chills have not been started. Oh no, that's for Dream. Combat chills has been started. It's almost finished actually for Keen, which would have been fantastic help for the defense, but even without it was able to hold back to equal amount of workers as well very quickly, only I guess very temporarily down like by 5 SCVs, and managed to keep that tank count relatively good. Really nice hold there from Keen, who's now looking for some harassment, I suppose, with these Vikings. Now, the Ravens all lived for Dream, which is fantastic, and he was able to get his 3rd command center up behind it, so when, you know, that was later, right? He was looking to kind of bridge the gap on the economy, in which he did, but he was also hoping that would have been a kill maneuver, which it wasn't. But all things considered, very even game. 2 Vikings beat 2 Vikings. No other moves, therefore I win. Not really. They're gonna kill each other. This is so dumb. Either one of them could have evacuated and just like save the Vikings or whatever. Keen going for the attack now. He does have a slight army supply lead, but more importantly, most importantly, oh well, he has a drop in the Nimi, and that's exactly what he was dealing with the Vikings for. That's why he didn't pull the Vikings back. And the Vikings of Dream weren't in the proper position because, well, Keen knew where they were because they were just attacking his own. That was actually super cool. But even despite that really cool little mind game right there, there were enough Vikings that popped out, enough units that came back home that Dream was able to defend. No openings were created at all at the 3rd base, which would have been the other potential problem, but Keen didn't really have that big of an army to really do that. Now he does, but only after the main base has been taken care of. The combat shield upgrade is such a crucial one for a direct fight, but I don't believe we're gonna really have a direct fight before Dream's combat shields are also finished, but 1-1 is also done, so Keen really should be taking most of these fights. It's just the tanks that are stopping him from getting any further. His own tanks aren't really ever in the most amazing position, and they are going to get taken out. Ravens now almost fully repaired back up to 100%, about 90% here are also looking to help out once more on the front lines, or the back lines, or whatever you want to call this line here. Vikings now in a quadruple number should be enough to deter Keen from further drops such as that, and Keen's going to reposition. Now behind this, he was able to get his 4th CC on command center, on location, as well as start his 2-2 and round out his production. Should be a second factory somewhere as well soon enough. Actually, there already is. Keen is really on top of it, really pulling Dream left, right, and making Dream catch up to him. But to Dream's credit, he has been catching up every time. He's found himself lacking upgrades, and that is the biggest problem for our yellow Terran right now. But it's something that if your tanks are in good position, if you can actually get enough tanks, secure 4 bases, get maxed out, eventually you get capped on 3-3, right? That's far in the future, but it could be what we're looking at. Sometimes, you know, TvT does take a little bit of a break around this time, when they both kind of say, okay, you have your 3rd, I have my 3rd, hey, why not go to a 4th? And there's a little bit of a breather here, which will be the first breather in quite some time. But hold on, as I say that, a mass Doom drop headed towards the main base. Vikings once again slightly out of position, but now the center tower has revealed it. It's too late. They're actually more so going towards the natural, so Keen always trying to get some type of clever drop going. Drops right on top of Dream's tank. That is so many units that I'm afraid Dream actually won't be able to defend. He's got his Ravens though, and that's the best thing that he has. The tanks taken out of the equation, but they're not actually being killed. 2 tanks are not firing, but also not dying. 1 tank still alive here, but 2 tanks, no, 1 tank siege up on that low ground for Dream. That is really all of his army. Where are the rest of his Marines? There's not here. There's just not enough of them. 11 Marines desperately trying to help out. Tank on the high ground, tank on the mineral line taken out, and the Marines will eventually be cleaned up, I suppose. They have done so much damage. Finally taken out there. Medevac's gonna flee for their lives, and most of them seem like they will live since the Vikings died over the Marines trying to desperately help against that Doom drop. Once again, Dream was smart enough to have the tanks just stay back here. He also immediately brought the Ravens back here, I guess, once they were expended on energy, just in case Keen was able to scrap up a little army to try and attack elsewhere. Dream once again holding on, but that was a lot more brutal than the previous 2 attacks. Oh my gosh. Keen also advancing his technology now, going to additional starports, is done with this attempting to like Doom drop, you know, shit. He's done with direct fights, or not. Now he is. Now he probably shouldn't do it. And the best way to break a Terran, when a Doom drop doesn't do it, when, you know, dual attacks don't do it, what does break a Terran are Liberators and Vikings and Ravens, and hell, maybe even battlecruisers eventually, if we're really gonna go for that long of a game. That breaks a Terran who's a little stubborn, and that is really hard for the Terran who's behind in bank, behind in income, to actually accommodate. You know, they're barely scraping things by with the defensive properties of the tank. It's what makes TvT such a great comeback mirror matchup, but they can't really depend on, you know, a lesser amount of Vikings to get them through. I think with their tanks. And Keen is just not done doing the Dream drops, man. On top of the 3rd base, the tanks were positioned in a forward manner, so they weren't here to defend against this, but the tanks, other tanks do respond, and the Ravens still being alive. God, these have been absolutely crucial to the defenses so far. Vikings even landing to help out. Once again, Dream holds, but at such a bad supply. 2 medevacs going to the main base, once again taking advantage of the lack of missile turrets, of which I guess actually a lot of them might have been killed in some of the previous drops. This tower also finally taken care of. Not that it's been the biggest of helps. Raven finally goes down. 2 Ravens still alive, still very important, but oh man, those Ravens have been such a backbone. To lose even 1 is a little scary. Marines going for the last hurrah, killing whatever SCVs they possibly can. How many SCVs have died in the making of this TvT? 47. 47 for Keen. And he's up to 71 on 5 bases himself. He has been gathering up the Viking storm and can now add on exactly Liberators and his own Ravens. Dream must be thinking that's got to be on the way. He knows how TvT works. He knows how bad of a position he's in. And all I can really hope for is that Keen isn't making this transition, and that he finally makes a fatal Doom drop, which he loses, you know, 60 supply instantly. That's what Dream has to hope for, because I don't see him combating the air war when he's still not even able to get maxed out on the ground on the cheap Marine units. How can he expect to make up for it in the sky with only 1 starport? Thank you, Horst Local, for the 2-month resub. Give it a good work. Really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. 3-3 is about to finish for Keen. Not even started for Dream. Understanding sacrifice he had to make, but if you're going to try and get one upgrade, it should be the attack. 4 Liberators at a time. Liberator range on the way as well. The scan reveals how many Vikings. Keen's been bulked up here. He's going to desperately try and get one, but nope, not going to happen. He knows what's coming next. It's got to be those Liberators. He can try and build missile turrets to kind of buy time for it, but then the tanks of Keen will start to break through them eventually, slowly. Dream is thankfully got to 4 bases at all, but this next defense is going to be the real tough one. He does manage to scrap together enough minerals and gas for 3-3. I guess he's getting maxed out, so he is actually starting to bank. This is what I was talking about like 6 minutes ago. This would inevitably happen should he be able to get to 4 bases, but it still means he doesn't have a bank, and he doesn't have as much production, especially for the sky. Already forced to retreat here. Scancy and massive doom drop potential once again. We're just dropping a couple of the tanks, might be what he's thinking. Double drops went to the bottom side for Dream, but Keen hasn't been so cocky as to make all of his, additional command centers orbitals. Without high-sec auto-tracking, you can harass the SCVs, though, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Doom drop to the main. 1 medevac was low, but not targeted, so it actually gets to still completely deplete its cargo. And that seems like a lot of Marines to deal with. Vikings are trying to do something, but what can they actually do? Anti-arm missile wouldn't be so bad either here. And the drops of Dream, well, this one's cleaned up. This one actually doing a decent amount of damage. We actually have attack on the top, so on the front as well. The air battle has begun, and actually is going to be won by Dream. The anti-armor certainly helping, but I think he also managed to scrap together enough Vikings to actually be competitive, but his starport has gone down, his barracks have gone down, these Marines have run rampant in the main base. Very slow response here when you have to siege up your tanks like this. The Thor goes down, one of the other emergency responses to Liberators, but thankfully he won the air war, so he will live to see another day, but without any production. Keen continues his lead. He might have lost a couple more SCVs there, but literally a couple, I guess. And some mining time, but he is building 3 more command centers, rounding out his upgrades, and even getting building armor. The tanks finally take care of this drop. Okay, they may actually lose another tank. Dream is basically on a mech army right now. 8 tanks, 4 Vikings, basically no Marines. And finally, Keen is going to be able to break his opponents, but good God, Dream, he just kept holding on. It was like, I refuse to lose. Damn. Nicely done, TvT. This is why it's the best matchup. Best mirror matchup. Now is an option for the players to not see skins. At least one of the pros in a mirror matchup should be using skins. You overestimate how much pros think of skins. Even if they knew that there's the option, many of them just do not bother making the game with Game Heart. And many of them are on, accounts that don't have skins anyways. Okay, hopefully this is the second game. It should be anyways. In the bottom left, as the yellow Terran, it is Dream. And in the top right, as the blue Terran, it is Keen. Really good stuff there. Keen bringing it with the aggression and a really nice, smooth macro behind it to kind of easily make it look easy to go into extra command centers, extra production, transition safely into the starports. I mean, he made it look easy, and it was because he had the upper hand for the majority of that game, sure. It also is just telling to how good these guys have to be at TvT in the Korean server. Most of the tournaments in Korea still heavily revolving around that TvT, the online tournaments, that is. A lot of Terran showing up for these. Dream, though, no slouch. I mean, for him to hold on as long as he did, down in upgrades, down in bases almost always, he almost was able to bring it back, just not quite enough to fully get rid of the deficits he found himself in. You know, if he had done a bit more damage on that one attack on the high ground to Keen's third, maybe it does make up for the upgrade difference, but you know, we didn't. And there's many other battles that happened in that game, even from the get-go. Literally, the first thing that happened was Dream almost being able to crack Keen's defense on the natural to even further delay the command center, and he just wasn't able to quite do it. Keen's Reaper micro was pretty good. They both are going into the factory expand. You can check the gases to make sure they're not going to add on a starport. Most Terrans not going for the full 1-1-1, right? If they do, it's usually a proxied starport. And then again, they just don't really. So, you know, let's check the gases for that. Reapers from both sides. Probably both of them will go into multiple Reaper, multiple Hellion. It's very dangerous not to do it regardless of what you're opening with, but then when you find out that you're both doing factory expands, even more dangerous. And in general, that's the power that factory expand's supposed to give you, is that it's not just safe against something that they might be doing, it also is the opportunity for you to get some damage done. But when you're both doing the same thing, what really happens? Sometimes nothing. Sometimes one person does just say, you know what, I'm gonna guess that you're gonna be afraid of me, I'm afraid of you, and I'm gonna try and risk adding a tech lab instead of a third Hellion, or something along those lines. Other times they both really do just go like, well, you could beat me if I'm risky here. Ditto for you, so let's both assume that we're not gonna do anything. Which can happen. Doesn't look like it's happening here. Keen initially set up on the defense side. Okay, I do want to try and attack, see if I can get a better advantage. He's actually going to use his Reapers to do a little bit of scouting as well as some damage. That means that the Reapers won't be back at home, though. And that's the tricky thing. They do grab the Hellion, or just barely. Mass Repair not quite good enough. SCV gets a last hit there. Two Hellions survive as Keen skedaddles back home. But this Reaper, this single Reaper has certainly lasted long enough to get the scout, to get maybe one SCV or something like that, and then also to buy time for the defense to still be good enough, as Dream had to respond with his own Reaper. His attack does not look as strong as maybe it could have been. Being going for his own repair on his Hellion, realizing how clutch this could possibly be. He's trying to get to a Cyclone, trying to get to Marines that are building a reactor. And Dream does find success in the counter. That was the potential risk of what Keen did with those Reapers on the high ground in the main base. But now with the Marines popping out 2 at a time, it should be just a matter of time. This is a significant delay on the orbital, which Dreams has already done. So definitely still worth it here for our yellow Terran. Now as the Cyclone pops out, these these starter units, the Reaper Hellions, are just really quite useless. But that was a bit of a scout in the main base, I believe. I don't think he saw the beginning of the upgrade. No, he did not. So that is pretty big here. Keen not going for just a, third CC, which is exactly what Dream is doing. What you would expect out of, like, I don't know, 60, 70% of TvTs is to go into that third CC. Nope. And we could even see him go for a 2-base all-in, although I think his gases are a little too wonky for that. I'm not sure. We saw Keen do a 2-base all-in on this map with mech and another TvT. It is brutal. The size of the map really playing into that as well. It's the shortest map, apparently, except for Turbo Cruise, which actually is the shortest map. Like, I could believe it was a short map. But to be smaller than New Repugnancy, that kind of blew me away. But anyways, still a small map. Your mech all in will actually be able to hit with some decent timing, where if you're on, you know, King's Cove, that's a bit of a different story. There's also some abusive situations you can find, little advantages you can find, like putting your tanks over here, for instance, with the air control, or putting them here sometimes can find production, but notably, Dream not falling for that potential trap, had built all of his production back around his command center. What do I spend the $20 for? Oh, on the Google sheet? I went out with my friends to get food.
Detected. Arming raid defenses.
Whoa! Thank you very much, Wardy, for the huge host. I know he was casting, what was it, the Asus Rock qualifiers? I am casting some replays. Right now we're in the Alima League June monthly finals replay pack, which you can find over on patreon.com/olimole. And these quarterfinals were not cast, so I wanted to see exactly what happened here in this TvT. You missed a real banger of a TvT in game number 1. This one came out to be pretty good as well. 3 Ravens, 3 Ravens, 2 tanks, seems like taken out of the equation. Mass auto turrets going down, but I'm afraid that Keen, they've already taken the advantage. Concave's pretty good for him too. He doesn't actually take out the tanks though, so one lives through the interference matrix. Oh, the Cyclone's barely not able to grab the last Raven there. Both of them very low, in fact. But the Cyclone dies, the Cyclones die, Dream's army dies, now down 12 supply. He does have that faster stim. He is about to work on those upgrades, but Keen going for an attack was not actually all in. I was just talking about how there's some 2 base all-ins that exist, but Keen's a little later gas, and obviously throwing on a 3rd command center, that's not what he was thinking. He is going to have to make up for that later 3rd command center, but we can see that he certainly is. That attack went swimmingly for him. And now even getting a supply depot, because why not? Now it's time to be a little afraid of what exactly Dream's production can start throwing out there. Keen's gonna respect that. Just keep a Marine here for scouting and go back home. No mech transition despite, you know, investing into that upgrade. They both are starting that stim, but Dream's is quite a bit faster. His combat shields is going to be quite a bit faster. His production also in general, definitely faster here. Just waiting on 2 more reactors. Doesn't quite have the gas for it. Decided to take the other 3rd CC. I don't know if he didn't realize that Keen had retreated. Well, now he sees the army. Interference, but just goes down on 1 tank. Auto turrets otherwise, but these 2 tanks actually not dying. Well, there we go. Whew. Once Keen's tanks got in a position, that's when things... with Dream's air control, he could just add on a Liberator here to really help him out, but actually gonna go for the... Okay, don't land the tanks. The Marines were a little far away and actually just not in high enough numbers to protect them, so the Vikings take out the tanks super quickly. The SCV pull even looking a bit unnecessary at the end of the day there. Not too many lost their lives, just a decent amount of lost mining time. Most importantly, Keen's army was taken out in a fantastic trade, actually. Now half the army supply of Dream. Dream has the faster stim, working on those combat shields, and is now finally able to mine from his 3rd CC. Keen definitely doing the job there to delay his opponent's 3rd, so his is up and running faster, but at the consequence of the sacrifice of his army, the ebb and flow of mirror matchup continues, and Dream should be looking for an opportunity since everything is lining up for it. His 1-1, his combat shields, a relatively fast upgrade, and his medevacs did just pop out. Armor coming down a little bit late with everything that was going on, but he should still have the faster 2-2. Kind of the reverse situation of last game, and he was able to still keep 2 Ravens alive. Only losing 1 with all of the action going down. Marine scouts the 3rd CC, fully saturated too, which he probably expected a little bit. Right over here scouting for maybe a greedy 4th base, or just eventually a 4th base. And Dream is going to start sieging up his opponent's 3rd. So this tower could be picked off. The interference page just goes down to the tanks, actually. And that might be enough for Dream to just crack them. Those are the only tanks that he has, with barely any Marines to support. And Dream, did he just win? Did he just win with that? The Marines are doing so much damage here. All the SCVs have been taken out from that 3rd base. Vikings land, but they don't actually kill the tanks. And that is game-ending damage. That is that. Dream's Raven usage was impressive last game despite the loss. And it's impressive this game as well. Marines desperately want to get that last hit there. Not gonna find it. Keen has nothing going for him at this point. He doesn't have the economy. He doesn't have the upgrades. He still doesn't have combat shields. And he doesn't have the army, still at half the supply of his opponent, and Dream rallying forward, something that if it was a different TvT, if you're farther along here, would be usually a bad idea in this matchup. But when you know you've got them, okay, bye Raven. When you know you've got them on the ropes, then rallying's the way to go. Tanks get sieged up at the sacrifice of the Marines, it looks like, but tanks are sieged. They're taking shots on the tanks of Keen to take those down, so only one lives through that. That was a solid enough defense for Keen to hold on to his 2 bases, but once again sacrificing SCVs and that mining time. Still not feeling so hot. Dream just pushing his advantage further, going for the 4th CC. What was even over here? Oh, supply depot. Yeah, it ended up really helping, did it? Starting his 2-2, which actually was late. Keen was faster to his armory production and started that as soon as possible. Dream a little late to it, but I don't know, guys. The army supply should just be too big to actually matter. I almost don't want to talk about anything else because we all know the next attack's probably gonna be the killer blow. We now have 2 tanks for Keen, which feels like just like a little bit better. Just like a tiny bit. 3 tanks even. Ho ho. Now we're working again. And tanks are the best way to make a comeback. Hope that they get overzealous, run into your tanks, takes a couple good trades, boom. Suddenly you've made that comeback. Supply depot did its job. And Keen is trying to respond. Let's turret Vikings, Marines of his own. Is it enough? Interference matrix even on one of the fully packed medevacs. This is the start of a great defense, but is it going to be enough? Dream still had a lot of armor supply in there. Actually, I think it is enough. It's definitely enough. That was a nasty little combination. What is going on with my mouse today? That is a nasty combination of defensive units there. That supply depot did its job and then some. This turret's in the natural also helping out, and Keen is trying to make that comeback work. He's gonna have equal upgrades. He finally has those combat shields. I guess I say equal, isn't the +1 vehicle weapons, but that's not as important as those upgrades for the Marines. Dream even potentially gonna lose more units here, but tanks can be found basically for free. Nope, just kidding. Good pickup. Keen's gonna really struggle to afford that 3-3. That's where Dream's gonna get the advantage again, but not for a little while. Keen, though, not really in a position to attack, despite taking a good trade there. What's on the front lines actually does not look that impressive for Blue Terran. The deficit, the supply deficit here is all on the workers. It's an even army supply, even upgrades. This is the time where maybe a huge, fantastic concave from Keen could change the tides of war, but he's not really getting that, is he? He also has another advantage, I guess, which is the Vikings. So they are getting the free vision here, but Dream at a full saturation for bases doesn't have to use mules. You can just use scans over and over and over again. Constantly scanning to see what the army movement is. Keen is going to try and hold the line with the tanks. A little bit of false information there as well. And oh, okay, bye Vikings. Okay, he is going to go for a Doom Drop. He's either going to try and come from a different angle or go for a Doom Drop, and, well, it's the latter. 6 medevacs full of Marines, no tanks, are headed right towards that main base, and Dream figures it out. He's like, okay, what could you possibly be doing to come back here? 1 medevac goes down instantly. Second one goes down pretty quickly as well. 4 medevacs will unload their cargo, but on a Terran who is actually responding. No chance to really segment himself into this main base either. Cement himself in this main base, rather, as there's no tanks. And even if they were sieging up, they would not have sieged up in time. GG. Dream brings it back to the ace match. Game number 3. And we figured it was a good TvT because it took forever. Okay? That doesn't always mean it's a good match when it takes a long time, but it does up the chances of it. And this has been a very cool TvT. Pato being a patient boy. Say hello. No. Okay then. You don't have to. Game number 3, in the top left, as the yellow Terran, it is Dream. In the bottom right, as the blue Terran, he is Keen. Trying his hand at a pretty aggressive maneuver the last game with the Cyclone upgrade, but not finding as much success as he would have liked with the follow-up attack, actually. So the first one did what it wanted, forced Dream to lift off that command center, killed a couple extra SCVs, even took a decent army trade, right? But then Dream's Ravens with the SCV pool, with the few units of Keen off to the left, kind of harassing that third CC. It all came together to give Dream quite the army advantage, which he used to great effect. We do have Keen going for Runox Expand and choosing not to go for the full scout of his opponent, to actually go across the map. Just chooses instead to scout the most common proxy racks locations and get that SCV back home kind of, you know, not exactly ASAP, but sooner than it would have been able to go back home had it completely scouted the opponent. And if they're not going to be proxy raxing, there's not many other things that are really suspicious they'd be doing. I was gonna say, what the hell is this SCV going for? But yeah, if it's not the proxy racks, then, you know, whether they're one rack expanding themselves or factory expanding is, I mean, it's good information, but it is something that you can kind of take care of without actually seeing it. Just being a little bit more on the cautious side. You know, you're not the one that's really allowed to send your Reaper across the map to do damage, especially if you're not going to go for a second Reaper. The first Reaper for both parties will be even, but the follow-up is very uneven. Now, it's a big map, and no one's mined out the minerals in the middle. So with Dream's follow-up, I think Keen would still be pretty okay, even if he did make a mistake here and there. But that's the fear. That is the fear. You lose the first Reaper, then you only have a Helen and 2 Marines, which are combated by 2 Reapers and a Hellion. Pretty easy peasy for these guys with their micro. And then suddenly you don't have a command center very fast at all. But, I mean, again, even with the size of the map, command center going down nice and early, we do have it finishing before Dream can do anything about it. So no worry here for Keen, who also, this time did not go for a Cyclone follow-up, but rather swapped off to go for some Hellions, which will eventually take advantage in this army-to-army trade. SCV, 4 SCV goes down. Reaper needs to get in here to help out. 2 Hellions going down a ramp, don't look so pretty. There we go. But 2 more Hellions, and suddenly Keen would take the advantage. But Dream already working towards a Cyclone would obviously help on the front lines. We also have a medevac, and that's when the Cyclone needs to be in 2 places at once. It's the big daddy of the beginning game at TvT. It feels really good and important and cool. It can defend against everything except, you know, 2-pronged attacks. That's when the single Cyclone defense starts to look a little weak. Thank you very much, Zydan, StarCraft 2, for the 1,000 bits. Hello. Good day, sir. You're awesome, and I appreciate you, your streams, and your hard work. Well, thank you very much. Today has been a pretty good day, guys. A lot of people coming in and wishing me, you know, happy 4th of July and all that. And, you know, happy 4th of July to you guys, too. Even if you don't celebrate it, just, you know that there are however many millions of people celebrating by blowing their fingers off and eating greasy foods. And just feel good about that, you know? Just feel good for other people. And then you'll feel good yourself. Or alternatively, if you're English, make fun of us for leaving your country. That's always fun. Medevac drop on the main base. This is where the Cyclone doesn't... It's not dealing with 2 attacks. Cyclones aren't dealing with 2 attacks. It's just simply out of position. They were fully expecting the front attack, and well, they were wrong about that. Keen getting some excellent damage. Dream just did not think about this whatsoever. Just thought that the Hellion opener might be defensive, or that it wouldn't come with a medevac, which, I mean... I kind of wanted to say it was a mistake of Dream to predict that, you know? Like, you see 2 Hellions pop out, even if you didn't see the reactor on them, which he did not. 2 Hellions at the same time. I could see how you would think they just built 1 Hellion and another one. But, if you thought there was reactored Hellions, you're gonna have to expect 4, and there's more than a 50% chance it's gonna be a drop as well. Not quite 100%, but I'd say more than 50. So for him not to have anything here to scout for it or to defend against it is just... it's catastrophic. And it's a little on him, isn't it? 2 Hellions still alive, looking for the natural after dealing so much damage in the main. 13 SCVs have already gone down. Only good news so far is that Dream did take down the Raven, his opponent, but then loses his Raven anyways. Tit for tat. But Keen's the one that still feels better because he killed so many SCVs. His third CC is also down on location a little bit later than his opponent's, but 8 SCVs up means that that's still Gucci for him. And these Cyclones trucking around could miss other attempts at harassment. Medevac going back into the natural, not with Hellions, but with a Cyclone and a couple of Marines. Well, decides not to, boost away, and then comes back in. Cyclone lock-on is not too long of a cooldown, but long enough to do that. Very risky play here. Such a risky play as the Raven had returned and an auto turret would have torn down that medevac ASAP. Actually, all the Cyclones find it. And Keen does get punished for it was definitely a risky play. More Ravens on the way for both parties. They've replaced the initial ones that they lost. We might still see them go up to 3, but you know, we're talking about a considerable amount of time and resources going into the starport. So it's a little difficult to say that they'll go to 3, even though that's kind of been more and more the standard because they lost the initial one. And it looks like Keen's gonna go into the 3rd one. Dream might have more difficulty with it because he's going into mech, but he actually has a decent amount of gas. Probably because he lost all of his mining SCVs and the minerals. But that is also something I really should really emphasize here. Dream is going into mech. I actually kind of picture Dream as a mech player. Now, he comes and goes in terms of being on the radar for StarCraft 2 tournaments. Actually, I thought he had retired at one point, not gonna lie. But whenever he does play, he does seem to really enjoy mech, especially in TvT, even when it's not necessarily like the cool thing to do. And I'm glad to see that he's finally going back to almost his roots. Not quite, but I'm gonna go with it. That's the story I'm creating. And Keen needs to get an idea about that. Now, we already saw, what, 4 Cyclones, I believe, in total from his opponent, so that should be a good indication. Saw no tech level in the barracks either, despite being there very recently. Yeah, I gotta figure Keen knows, and well, he's building 2 Mars at a time, so yes, in fact, he does know. Now, this is a great map for mech. It's a good map for Protoss. It's probably a good map for mech. And this is a good map for Protoss. So you get your 3 bases nice, early, and safely. You only have to worry about the drops to the left and the right. But as far as, you know, attacks run buying from here, well, that's where the minerals play in, right? That's why they're there. And then later on, maybe the opposing team, the opposing SCVs mine this out, you know, sneaky deaky like, but more often it's the person next to the minerals who decide to take this as a 4th or a 5th or whatever they want to do. Just a little bit of bits of harassment coming down from Dream. Using the Raven is very risky. And just because Keen's the bio player does not mean he's not going for Vikings. Now, Keen is not going for Vikings, but that's not always 100%. Sometimes you do still see the bio player realize, hey, maybe if I continue to make Vikings, I will just be able to beat them in that air war, even though I won't necessarily be able to drop a lot or have a lot of potency with my army, because one sim will injure everything. So, just in general, Ravens being on the other side of the map is kind of risky, but so far so good. Dream just gotten little bits of SCVs here and there. Everything's calmed down again. Barracks lifted off, scouting what it can. Sensor Tower is done, scouting everything basically on Thunderbird, including the 4th base a little bit here. And that 4th base is coming down now for both parties. Fortunately, you know, the times to really hopefully kill a mech player as the bio player, as a Zerg player, as even a Protoss player to a degree, right? Like, as usually, if you can kill him before you get to a 3rd CC, amazing, awesome, but maybe not really realistic. But, you know, between the 3rd and the 4th, that's when you really hope you're doing some serious damage. Ooh, thanks, great lived. And when Thunderbird gives that very, very easy opportunity to get a 3rd and a pretty damn easy opportunity to get the 4th base, that's when the bio player really starts to be like, well, this sucks, you know? Like, what really are my options if I can't tear them down at all on 3 bases, and then their 4th base gets up without too much of a hitch here? Dream could even be waiting a little while longer, especially because he is no longer producing nothing but ground army. He is trying to already transition into Vikings and starports. He could have waited even a little bit longer for a little bit safer of a take on that fourth, but nope, he doesn't. And he doesn't have to. We know that. He's playing a little scary, but we know that. Keen's army is simply not prepared to actually punish it, and Dream is going to be able to get to a decent army on the ground and an army in the sky. 82 workers here. 76 for Keen, not too far behind. 4 tanks sieged up actually is not the best. What are these guys? What's going on here? Okay, alright. He's just starting to set up his stack defense and his harassment defense, it looks like, and just kind of not taking the tank out of the hotkey too soon. I am a little concerned though. Like, this army from Dream does seem a little bit weak on the grounds. And the Vikings are great and all, but he did start to skimp on that factory production off the early for taking that 4th base, which does give the opponents the better concave. So it's usually the scary part of the game. Do you have enough supply to actually hold? But it looks like it's okay. Doom drop though. So many Vikings. This is actually gonna work. And Zac defense and Cyclones. Hell no. That ain't gonna work. And Keen should be scratching his head already. This is the problem I was talking about. This is usually why you see if they're not breaking them, if they're not doing damage within the 3 bases, that's usually when you see the Terrans start to consider going into air war. And then, especially if they can't break them on 4 bases, they basically have to go into the air war. But I say that, Ravens come in all sneaky. Deacon like can take out 3 tanks, 4 tanks actually, and the Hellbats not able to provide. Whoa! Keen just breaking Dream here. 3 tanks on the high ground looking quite useless. Vikings land to support the last tank, but it goes down regardless. Now, Keen did sacrifice a lot of his army to do that, but damn, he actually was able to break his opponent, and he has all of his tanks alive. So they can actually siege up this planetary, and did Dream just make an absolutely huge mistake? Maybe he did. He's trying to get Liberators out now to support, but all the SCVs have to be repairing this one with that much tank fire. The tanks of Dream now coming forward, but oh man, if they had been there earlier, this could have been a big difference. Liberators will eventually pop out, and that will be able to stop these tanks from firing on the planetary, but oh my gosh, this is a problem. No medevacs to support the bio, but a good concave on top of these tanks. With 3 more tanks on the high ground, meaning the Marauders actually cannot break into that high ground. Dream, not a fool. He's not going to continue just producing from the starports. He realizes he needs to get that tank count back up, but more so he needs to get rid of these tanks on this planetary, and finally he'll be able to do that. That was definitely scary, but he ends up holding on 4 bases with still around 1 piece supply. I think he is going to be okay. Keen, again, also probably feeling the effects of this map. No minerals mined out from the middle. Even if he was rallying forward with as much production as he possibly can muster, it wouldn't be that quick. So, they're all back here. It is a decent army, but he was also planning his own transition. He'd also gotten 2 command centers behind this. One's already planetary. This one's turning into a planetary. He was thinking about the long game behind that, and that's where a lot of his income went into. Not necessarily replacing the army as fast as possible. Raven Interference Matrix only works on units and only mechanical and psionic units. Off to BBQ later. Have fun, Wave Again. Alright, so that almost was the break, right? I almost had to eat my words and be like, well, just kidding, guys. I swear I know what I'm talking about, but luckily I still seem somewhat smart. So seriously, we're back to the problem. Like, if you can't break them there, you're so close to doing it, you're not going to break them. Unless you were on New Repugnancy and you're just consistently flooding through with army, and he really couldn't do that. So now we're onto the air, which Keen was also really willing to adapt to. He's got the superior economy, but really not by that much. Just an extra base here. Still down in workers. His Dream has really gone for a lot of SCVs. Up to 91 right now. We'll start to bank quite a bit as he's fully maxed out. Start to add on more production, probably starports. Keen not just going for his own bio upgrades, however, is also going for double armory upgrades, realizing that this would eventually go to that air war, as TvT does. Litter has to start up nice and quick with the range. The search was a little bit late to the party for that, but Vikings are here, and actually quite a few Vikings. This will be Dream's first sight of how many Vikings Keen's been able to muster up there, and it's actually more than his. So he needs to go into a bit of an emergency mode and think of like the potential of Liberators coming very, very soon. More missile turrets, maybe some Thors, and certainly start to go back into the Viking production, which is exactly what he does. Hellions going to the top side, but that's a planetary. You should not really be able to get Hellions to do damage to these outlying bases unless the bio player starts to get cocky and build orbitals over there, but then you just move on to the next stage, or you simply sacrifice the Hellions, especially when they have blue flame, to kill the SCVs regardless, because minerals are not really the concern right now. Liberators sieging up over the unfinished missile turrets. Vikings, however, going over one finished one and just meeting their match of Vikings. Defense advantage definitely going to kick in this type of engagement as well. So close to the Vikings, jeez Louise. Raven comes in for another interference matrix perhaps, and it gets one on the Liberator actually, so the missile turrets can finish up. Interesting choice. That was actually a very, I would not have thought of that at all, but it doesn't work out. Bio comes in to deplete the tanks. They're actually going to go after the planetary as well. Now the SCVs to repair, and no building armor, I guess? Yeah, no building armor. Means that Keen actually breaks his opponents. The Viking War was quite laughable, I guess, as Keen eventually lost it to the reproduction of Dream, but the bio was able to successfully push past, and that was probably more important. It not only pushed past a bunch of tanks and a planetary, it also lived to tell the tale, so it can still go around, marauder around literally with marauders and look for any other bases, any opportunities. But right now they're gonna go ahead and retreat back into whatever medevacs they can get here. Just one right now, but more are on the way. Dream did have this top right base up and running, which Keen knows about, but he has just reduced Dream back down to what, like 1.5 base mining. So it's not the end all be all, but that was a nice little maneuver there. Yeah, he sacrificed most of his Vikings, but he took down a lot of Dream's Vikings and a decent number of tanks along with him. The minerals have been mined out from here. Look at that, look at that. So he will be able to try and defend this base, but if we really look at it here, this is one of the first times I've seen this base taken in a non, like, you know, base race scenario. We will see the Rich and Vespian geysers taken. If you were to respond to an attack by going through here, it'd be kind of weird, right? Like, sometimes we go over here, sometimes we go over here. Hellions try and, like, filter through the minerals and stuff. It still would be an awkward place to defend as a last-minute thing, but kind of the point is that this shouldn't be a last-minute defense. This actually might be the point of what's the best way to put it? Like, the bouncing off point, right? Like, where you both defend your bases as well as start your attack to Keen's base. Or Keen's base, because once you bring in those rocks, you're right there, right? So, this is now the new point of contention where the 4th base was for the last 16 minutes. This will be for the next 16, who knows? Keen could try and avoid it altogether, especially if Dream's gonna just stay here with most of his army, which he is. But it's not much easier to crack this type of setup either, despite having a lower amount of units set up there. Keen's the one to break this base. Does he realize there's an entire army there? No, but he's gonna go for it anyways and decides not to. I guess he was hoping that really was only 2 tanks defending a planetary that was brand new, but no, man, this has been here for a little while. Accidentally losing a good chunk of his army, but not enough to really hurt him. He did luckily decide not to go for it. If he had just YOLO'd, he absolutely would have died. Dream finally cut his own worker count down to 76, which is a much healthier count. His army supply is looking better. Tanks are easily maneuvered back to the 4th or 5th, whatever you want to call it. Vikings and Liberators and Ravens, oh my, but Cyclone's also on the ground here supporting for Dream, means that he should be taking this battle, right? Yeah, absolutely. 22 Vikings to 10, 3 Cyclones to no ground support whatsoever there for Keen, but Keen actually going towards that planetary. Once again, it's the Razzle Dazzle. He seems to be intentionally taking the Viking trade because he thinks he has a chance, but no, actually just to maneuver the army away. And when there's nothing else supporting what was 5 or 6 tanks, then the concave of bio will actually take it out. But unlike last time, the planetary didn't go down. All the tanks did not die. Still enough here to hopefully defend any further attacks. This planetary looks like will eventually go down. Keen within sights of the sensor towers actually has none of his own. All the sensor towers on the map right now, they're all dreams. That's kind of weird. Hey guys, hey Zergirl. Oh Zergirl, have you finished the co-op mutation? It was hard, man. I gave up. Vikings definitely poking the bear a little bit there. Keen just forced to retreat. It was an overwhelming supply. Oh. And this is something that he has also been taking advantage of, right? Not just taking out parts of the army, Cyclones and some Hellbats included every time that Dream goes to defend some of these other attacks, like the one over here. He also is, just keep in mind, putting a lot of his army supply into air. So if Keen were to go all in on the ground, he might have difficulties defending against that. The Keen's not quite doing that. He is still trying to play a couple different wars. So making Vikings, as he does a bit of a doom drop into the main and natural, grabs the armory, is looking for the production, finds a battle cruiser, and knows exactly where this game's going. Reactor's going to be taken out here, so hopefully the production of Dream does not match his own. I thought I heard a nuke, but then I wondered where it was. Actually, it is. It's a nuke. And it went off and killed the SCV, but didn't kill anything else. Okay, gotcha. This is planetary. It's not Dreams, and he's probably gonna go after that and kill it. Nice and quick. Like this planetary, also not Dreams, but within sight of his sensor tower. Oh no, not well, kind of, not really. It looks like it just looks like a Marine scouting there. That's kind of weird. Push through the middle of the map. Does catch a lot of the tanks responding to the planetary instead of defending their fifth, or I don't even know what to call these bases anymore, guys. Battlecruisers, however, taking care of that problem that I had just mentioned. You know, the Vikings in the sky can't really deal with an overwhelming ground force, but battlecruisers can certainly help, right? They attack both ground and air. And that's ultimately what Dream was hoping to get to. So what is Keen's response to this? He's going to continue trying to build a ground army. His air army has gotten up to 35 Vikings and a couple of Ravens. Interference matrix being fantastic against battle cruisers, but oh my god, look how many Vikings there are. Answer armor missile. Getting my upgrades and spells confused come through. But oh my god, Keen had already had so many more Vikings, and battle cruisers actually not look that helpful. When there's this much of a difference of Vikings, battlecruisers do not make up for that. Definitely not. Another nuke comes down and actually hits the SCVs and the main planetary. Injured buildings, both of them, and actually this one's gonna go down. The SCVs trying to desperately get that last bit of repair in, but still no building armor. I do wonder if that would have saved some of these planetaries. I'm not sure. Battlecruisers once again going into a war that they cannot win, and in one fell swoop, Keen might have found victory. Also landing the tanks to take care of, landing the Vikings to take care of the tanks. Good god. Could also land on top of this planetary, would-be planetary, or just stop it from ever lifting to retreat from the Marauders. Either way, this base is going down. More bio coming through here. Keen's production, pretty damn good. He built extra orbitals, so his economy is never really bad despite having lost SCVs. Both of them having lost SCVs, and Keen is not stopping with this momentum. Dream seemed to be in the unbeatable position. He had tanks covering planetaries. He was on a bit of battle cruisers with a strong air army, but he didn't realize just how much Keen was going for his own. And battle cruisers just actually do not add enough until they're in higher numbers to help in such a huge Viking war. It was like 35 Vikings to like 20. You would have needed all the battle cruisers. You would need like 7 battle cruisers helping to actually support that alongside your own Ravens, which there's only one available for Dream. He's now desperately trying to stick with his initial plan of going into battle cruisers, but it's not going to work now. Keen can just go ahead and build nothing but Marines. Interference matrix showing how useful it is. Marines will take forever to kill a battle cruiser, but at least it's not shooting back, and that is it. Keen takes the 2-1 and advanced on in the Alima League, where he fought. I don't actually remember who he fought.